right, for today, we're going to be in chapter 11, section 3, but we're going to kind of explain something here first. All right, so if me and Thomas have a discussion with each other, all right, I am culturally interacting with Barton. If he's of a different culture, I'm of a different culture, because we've discussed things with each other. That is an interaction. Now, whatever we take from that interaction, whatever we have of that discussion, that is the either combination of our cultural interaction. It could be diffusion of our interaction. It could be agreement. It could be disagreement. It could be a war. It could be a Christmas time celebration. But we've culturally interacted together. All right. Within world history, there's a ton of this culture interacts with this culture, and many, many different things happen whenever those cultures interact. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, sometimes a war breaks out, sometimes a union happens, sometimes a trade agreement goes on. So, what we're going to kind of examine today is in chapter 11, section 3, is the Turkish group begins to rise over a few different groups that are there. They go into battle with a few different groups that are there, whether it has to do with the Crusades, whether it has to do with the Mongols, whether it has to do with the Abbasids, as far as what was the Islamic Empire. And that's kind of what we're going to look at today. So the first part here, it says, to the east, Constantinople, and south of Russia, the mighty Muslim Empire and the Abbasids had ruled since the 8th century. By the mid-10th century, however, their control of the region would end as a powerful group known as the Turks emerged. So about 2,000 years after, Islam, as far as that goes, 200 years after the Islam group had began to kind of disintegrate just a little bit at that time, the Turks are going to end up ruling and end up becoming a powerful force. All right. We're going to talk a little bit about the Crusades. There's multiple Crusades. There's not just one crusade that goes on. What do you know about kind of the idea of what a crusade is? What was the Crusades about? What was the whole purpose, the main idea, the main point of the Crusades? I'm sure some of you have heard a little bit about it. Again, don't be afraid to be wrong with what you say on it. What is the Crusades? Anybody? Okay, so let me give you kind of a hint on this one. Crusades wise, people of Christian religion were going, just like other religions were, to kind of trying to rid themselves of the invading cultures that were there, trying to get rid of, force upon, conquer, that were there. We talked about the idea of the separation of church and state. And one of the big things that the state was trying to push was that you could relinquish your sin. You could punch your ticket to heaven based upon your duty to rid and protect the idea of Christianity and the people that were there. So basically, go to war for Christianity, be able to defend Christianity, be able to defend the groups, the areas that were Christians. Right? And one of those today is going to kind of get going. And then you're going to see how the Turks were able to go into the Crusades, how the Turks were able to go against the Mongols, and multiple ones are there. All right, so what I want you to do right now is open up one tab that has your MyHRW. And again, I'll point that up there to the board and get a little closer there. All right, you'll go to MyHRW on page 314 through 317. Go ahead and open that part up first for me. And here, just a second, we're going to open up Canvas discussion board and we'll talk about it. Okay, you can go get it in just a second. Let's go through this first and you can go get it. All right, so once you've opened up that, if you look over, it's going to talk about the rise of the Turks, the Seljuk Turks, as far as they grow in the first page there on 314, continues on the idea of the Persians supporting them, allowing them to continue to grow through 315. And then 316 talks about the idea of the Seljuks confronting the Crusaders and the Mongols. All right, so the cultural interaction that happens between them, with the Persians, with the Crusaders, and with the Mongols, those are kind of three examples to be able to be used. And it finishes up right here on page 317. So what you'll do is you'll go to Canvas and you'll click on discussions. And there's one that is titled Chapter 11, Section 3. Chapter 11, Section 3. And it says on there, cultural interaction. Write at least 3 examples, including a paragraph, about the interaction, comparing ways in which different groups in this section interacted with each other. For example, the Seljuks and the Crusaders, the Turks and the Abbasids. All right, I'll read you an example of some of the replies. And again, whenever it says that it kind of needs to be a paragraph that goes on there. And again, not a copy and paste kind of paragraph, but an idea of a summary of. All right. So here's an example. It says Seljuks and the Crusaders. When Pope Urban launched the first crusade in 1905, he had the Turks out of Anatolia and recover the idea of the Jerusalem rule. The Crusaders captured Jerusalem and massacred its Jewish and Muslim inhabitants. After a while, a fragment of the former Seljuk Empire gathered strength to be able to fight. The Muslims recovered Jerusalem after in about 1187, and eventually the rest of the West, King Richard I of England signed a treaty. The treaty gave Jerusalem to the Muslims, but granted Western pilgrims access to Christian holy places. So they described what the interaction was between the Seljuks and the Crusades, and they put it in a paragraph form. That's one. All right, then you got to find 2 more because you have to give 3 examples and 3 paragraph forms of exactly what they did. Again, a sentence, a short, brief explanation does not count as the example. It has to be a full-on, like, descriptive paragraph about what happened to gain credit for it. All right. Again, you can use the MyHRW paragraphs there. That's what you're reading for. All right, but do not copy and paste directly to, paraphrase, put the information together. All right, and that will be a post off of discussion boards. Anybody have any questions? Everybody good? Okay. I'm going to turn on some music up here. Hopefully, I don't bother anybody. If you want to listen to your own, you're more than welcome to listen to your own. That's fine. I'll turn that on, and you guys will be able to post to the discussion board what you got there.